Hi everyone, and welcome to the All Things ITSM Global Podcast, coming to you from Service Management 2015 in Sydney. I'm Kirsty McGowan. I'm here with Tristan Boot.
Hello everyone.
And we're talking to David Favelle today, who we have to congratulate for being awarded the ITSM Champion of the Year award last night at the gala dinner. Well done.
It was a complete surprise.
Yeah, I know. You were sitting at my table and you sort of exclaimed.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, it was a little bit. It's interesting because I've been around the industry here in Australia for I think it's 17 years. I started with Pink Elephant back in 1998. And, I've always cared about ITSM and I've always cared about sort of pushing the envelope a little bit further. But sometimes makes you a little bit of a provocateur and somewhat outside the tent. You don't expect to get recognised for and so, I was delighted. Good fun.
It's nice when they open the tent door again. Of course, given some of the conversations about things in tents last night, we'll leave.
Yeah, no, it's probably not a good idea. We don't need to go there actually.
Bad habits. Yeah.
So one of the themes of this conference seems to have been DevOps. People are picking up on them. We've been talking about that sort of quite a lot. But obviously, you're working here in this part of the world. In that area, and so we're just interested to hear what you sort of see happening in some of the trends and where you think we're going.
Look, in some ways, I think we're very similar to that. We're a microcosm of the greater DevOps thing that's going on globally. So we've got a full continuum here of companies like Real Estate Australia, Domain. So some of the businesses that are software businesses, and they don't really have a separation between Dev and Ops historically. I mean, they just need to run their business, and so there's a lot of good practices already happening. I spoke at a conference a couple of months ago, and they had the guys from What If there, and this is how they run their business, and it's a value stream.
So it's not something new to them. It's just the way we do things.
And we've got people like Bank West that have been doing DevOps for a few years. There's a bank, a very mature organisation, have come off a basis of really strong, mature ITSM. And they've adapted to the agile sort of work that's been happening upstream from them. So they've figured out a way to work together because they were mature, it came from a good base. So there's that, and there's a lot of organisations now with digital programs running, right? So some of them are running off the reservation from enterprise IT because the velocity that they're after is not possible in the internal.
Right.
And then there are others that say, no, that's not how we want to do it. We want to have our digital program hooked up with the rest of our portfolio of services and to run this in the same way, but acknowledging the higher velocity or the higher throughput required by this particular value stream or this particular portfolio of services. So there's a full continuum there. Look, if one of the things that I would probably use as a marker is that, we've just started delivering DevOps training in the marketplace here, and there's not many people turning up yet, right? And that's interesting because at a grassroots level, there's lots of engineers going to the meetups, right? There are hundreds every week going to meetups on the eastern and the west coast, and yet we're not seeing that translating into enterprise IT management people or service management people going along finding out, what the engineers in the digital space are doing. So it's a bit fragmented at the moment.
Because I think it's been a slow burn over the last few years, and we at several conferences you see sort of people asking who knows about it and the hands go up and that kind of thing, but it's just starting to get to take off. But I think you're right, the engineers, they get it, they know about it, they're out there doing it, and it's the same with the the sort of the straight agile kind of sort of stuff as well. They're the ones who want, and it comes down to the throughput because they want to do that. And that was a point that was made in Nicole's keynote yesterday. It was about the throughput and how you don't necessarily need to give it up or to sacrifice it, but it is the bit that makes. Well, it certainly makes the more traditional people a little bit uncomfortable about just pushing more stuff through.
Well, it's interesting that the DevOps is a very measurement-driven culture, and if you see what comes out of the Puppet Labs annual survey, the State of DevOps survey, Gene Kim is behind this. He's smart enough to say, I need to not only show velocity, but I need to show risk and how that's being managed. So you see the mean time to recover numbers are going, much faster. The change error rates are halving, and we've got double throughput, 20 times some ridiculously, high numbers there in terms. But that all equals value, right? This whole proposition is a huge amount of value associated with it, but it's not easy. you know, and I was just talking to the guys from Bankwest downstairs about the complexity in the tool chain. You know,
Yes.
there's a lot of work to do because
Yep.
the tools have not sort of consolidated in any sort of easy to, so if, I think it was Patrick Dubois, who's credited as running the first DevOps days back in 2009. He put out a deck a couple of days ago. I picked up a tweet of his, and he picked up all of the tool chains of all of the people he could find out. Anything publicly available, he just went and scoured the web, put it into one deck.
Right.
Right, and it's about 35, 40 slides of everybody's tool chain, and they're all different, right?
Yeah.
There's, depending on what platforms they're on, you know, in terms of their applications, it's just all of these different choices that people can make. And that's actually a bit of a barrier to adoption in the enterprise, because you can't teach 20 tools in the enterprise, right? They want one tool to make it all simple. Where's the out-of-the-box solution for this problem is what we're looking for. So, because otherwise you've got a huge learning curve for so many people, and some of them are not the goats that we have in the DevOps world that will find their way into all of these curious little things and build this themselves. So we've got some challenges in terms of adoption, but it's doable. It's doable because everybody shares and everybody measures, and you can see the results that people are getting, and so it's a fairly compelling case. But it's not as easy as people might think.
So, what do we as service management professionals need to do? What attitudes do you think we need to change to be able to empower that?
I ran a workshop for a client last week where we ran a DevOps intro for a couple of hours, and then we ran change management workshop off the back of that.
Yeah.
And you could see people squirming in their seat, right? I'm doing the DevOps stuff, and they're going, risk, and not in my plan, you know. So there was that, and then I just said, look, you know, in the iTool books, we've got these models: incident models, problem models, request models, change models. So what we've really got to understand is what would I need if I was on a change advisory board to approve a change model, right? What would this look like for me to be able to say, you know what, I could make that a standard change. If you did that for me 3 times and it was successful, I'd be happy to let that through as a standard change, and we just report on it from here on in. So that concept was always there in the change, and in the book it was about efficient and prompt handling of changes, right? That's the end of the objective of the change. And efficient and prompt handling has kind of been forgotten by a lot of people. And in lean terms, what we've got is a local optimization, right? This gate, which is protecting from risk and all that sort of stuff, but that stops flow in the whole thing. And the change manager says, well, that's my accountability. Sorry, it's not. It's a change advisory board, and it's a business outcome we're looking for. And so a lot of service management people kind of have, you know, parked that one.
Well, it's really interesting. I was talking to a client last week, and you know, the feeling was that, you know, people had actually forgotten what change management's actually there for, forgotten the actual intention of it.
Yeah, it's to enable change, not to put barriers in front. And so often that's what your CABs and your change managers are doing. They're actually a bottleneck that's stopping change in the business. I guess I hadn't looked a lot into DevOps. I mean, I've spoken to a few people, I've read a few books, and I wrote a blog a while ago trying to get it straight in my head what it was. And I think what I'm seeing is what it's doing. It's enabling that value to hit the business a lot faster. It's you know.
Look, the challenge is cloud is a big enabler of this, right? Because production-like environments is what you need for dev, test, and obviously production. You want to have all those in alignment and being configuration managed so that they all stay in alignment. Now, cloud has made that possible. Some newer virtualization techniques. There's a bunch of things now that allow this to happen. But that acceleration exposes our processes all of a sudden, right? Because the tact time in lean terms is off. The process could now flow like this, but bang, it hits this local optimization, and it builds, you know, we get if you use your constraints theory, you'll see all of the inventory piling up behind that, you know. Once upon a time that wasn't exposed, so as part of bringing in these accelerated technologies, you've got to bring in the accelerated process. And most people haven't done that, right? It's like they haven't looked at... One of my clients, and I definitely remain nameless, but they spent a lot of money on virtualization with VMware a few years ago, and yet it was still taking months to get a server out of the system because you needed more than 15, 20 sign-offs, right, to get it through, and design approval and all of this sort of stuff. Hang on. What's the pattern here for the services that, you know, what is the architectural pattern we should be applying here? It should be, right, out of a service catalogue, apply it in 30 seconds. Not, okay, well, it might be cloud, but we've got to do this and do. Well, you've got to invest in the processes to get that business value out of that investment.
Oh, but we wrote our processes when we implemented ITIL.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that again. Is it CSI? No, we won't.
Yeah.
But it is, and I think it is. This is such a sea change of it's such a massive change of what's happening that people need to fundamentally to look at all that stuff. And do you? Would you say it's for everybody, or do you think some people just are not going to be able to change? And if you don't change, we know what happens then.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. One of my colleagues went to an AWS event here in Sydney a couple of months ago, and they threw up an org chart of the future of IT, and it didn't have infrastructure management, right? Infrastructure is code, right?
Yeah.
And so you have the developers, and you've got some governance people, and you've got you've got your DevOps people that are enablers wrapping around the devs for continuous delivery. Yeah. That's the future of the IT function, right? So, so if we're not focused on going upstream and decommissioning the old world over the next few years, it's just going to happen to you. So, and process and services people are very well positioned to work upstream into the business.
And the relationship side of what we do is just going to be absolute, and so that's why I think SIAM's also becoming such a massive part on the back of this, or vice versa. I think that's where the real opportunities are.
In fact, it's happening at both ends. So there's, on the demand side, you've got business relationship management being much more important because their portfolios of work are coming in from the business side. And on the supply side, SIAM becomes very important to be able to snap in, snap out the different value propositions of different vendors and bring their emerging technologies through and offer them. So that broker and integrator role in the middle requires, and I put an SMO in the middle.
Nice. I like it.
Very good. Well done. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
Well done. And it's been a pleasure chatting to you.
It's still fun what we do,
I'm
really enjoying it, and
it
it's a bit refreshing. There's sort of disruptions that are going on at the moment because it allows us to grow and learn again. So it's good
fantastic.
Fun. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks.